Hey coin lovers! Welcome to the Worth Old Coins channel, your place to discover the hidden value and rare facts about old coins. In today's video we're revealing the top 5 valuable coins, and one of them might just be in your collection. So don't skip this video, let's find out their real worth. Top 1. The 5 cents Canada 1989 coin featuring Queen Elizabeth II is part of Canada's long-running 5 cent series, popularly known as the nickel, even though its composition has changed over time. The 1989 5-cent piece holds special significance because it sits within an era of transition in Canadian coinage history, bridging the traditional nickel-based issues of earlier decades and the plated coinage that would arrive later. Struck by the Royal Canadian Mint, the 1989 5-cent coin was produced for circulation during the reign of Queen Elizabeth II, who had been Canada's monarch since 1952. Like all Canadian coins of this denomination since 1937, it features the world-famous beaver design on its reverse, a national symbol of Canadian industry, perseverance, and history. In 1989, the coin was struck in a composition of nickel, 100%, weighing 4.6 grams, with a diameter of 21.2 millimeters and a thickness of 1.76 millimeters, giving it a solid, silvery appearance. Its edge is smooth, without reading on the obverse side. The 1989 Canadian nickel features the effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, sculpted by Arnold McKim, whose portrait of the Queen was first adopted on Canadian coinage in 1965. This portrait shows Elizabeth II wearing a tiara, facing right, with a youthful yet regal appearance. Surrounding her portrait is the Latin legend Elizabeth II de Regina, which translates to Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen. This inscription underscores both Canada's status as a constitutional monarchy and the formal connection to the crown. The McKim portrait is iconic because it remained on Canadian coins from 1965 until 1989, making 1989 the last year this particular effigy appeared before being replaced in 1990 by the more mature portrait designed by Canadian artist Dora de Pettery Hunt. As such, the 1989 5-cent coin represents the final year of the McKim obverse, making it historically notable for collectors as a transitional issue. On the reverse side, the design is the classic beaver on a rock motif, created by Canadian artist G.E. Kruger Gray and first used in 1937. The beaver, one of Canada's most enduring national emblems, was chosen for its importance to Canada's early economy, especially during the fur trade era when beaver pelts were central to commerce and exploration. In the design, the beaver is shown in profile, industriously poised on a rock surrounded by water, symbolizing both nature and hard work. Above the animal is the inscription 5 cents, along with the word Canada and the date 1989. Encircling the upper edge of the design are 2 small maple leaves, another enduring national emblem of Canada. The simplicity yet richness of this design makes it one of the most beloved reverses in Canadian numismatics, having endured for decades virtually unchanged. The 1989 nickel was struck at the Ottawa facility of the Royal Canadian Mint, which has been responsible for the nation's coinage since its establishment in 1908. The coin was produced in large quantities for circulation, so in average circulated condition it is common and typically worth only its face value of 5 cents. However, uncirculated examples or those found in mint sets can hold collectible value, especially since 1989 marks the end of the McKim effigy era. For coin enthusiasts, a pristine 1989 5-cent coin in higher mint state grades, such as MS 65 or above, or proof-like specimens from collector sets can command a modest premium, particularly for those building a complete Canadian nickel collection. From a historical perspective, the 1989 Canadian 5-cent coin represents not just a unit of currency but also a cultural artifact. It carries with it the story of Canada's monarchic tradition through the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, the heritage of the fur trade and national identity through the beaver, and the enduring artistry of classic coin design. Its all-nickel composition is also noteworthy, as Canada would later move toward plated steel coinage in the 2000s to reduce costs, making earlier all-nickel issues like the 1989 coin increasingly distinctive. Collectors view the coin as both a nostalgic piece of circulating money and a marker in the timeline of Canadian numismatic history. And summary, the 5 cents Canada 1989 coin is a small but meaningful piece of Canadian history. With Queen Elizabeth II's tiara portrait by Arnold McKim marking its final year of use, and the enduring beaver design by Kruger Gray linking back to Canada's economic and cultural foundations, the coin embodies continuity and change. Its nickel composition, classic symbolism, and transitional obverse make it significant to collectors, while for ordinary Canadians it served as an everyday token of national identity in their pockets. Top 2, the 5 cents Canada 1978 coin featuring Queen Elizabeth II is part of Canada's long-running nickel series, a denomination that has been in circulation since 1858 and is well known for its iconic beaver reverse design. The 1978 issue was minted by the Royal Canadian Mint in Ottawa and struck in a composition of 100% nickel, which was the standard for Canadian 5-cent pieces at that time. The coin has a weight of 4.54 grams, a diameter of 21.2 millimeters, and a thickness of 1.76 millimeters, with a smooth plain edge. Its metallic composition gives it a bright silver appearance, and being pure nickel, the coin is also slightly magnetic, which makes it distinguishable from other denominations in everyday handling. The 1978 nickel falls within the period before Canada began experimenting with different metal alloys for cost-saving measures in later decades, making it part of the classic all-nickel era of Canadian coinage. On the obverse side, the coin bears the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold McKim, a British sculptor whose effigy of the Queen was first introduced to Canadian coinage in 1965. In this youthful depiction, the Queen is shown facing right, wearing a tiara, with her hair styled in soft waves. Around the portrait is the inscription Elizabeth II D.G. Regina, which is Latin for Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen. This obverse was used consistently from 1965 to 1989, making the 1978 nickel part of the McKim effigy series. For collectors, this era holds significance because it represents Elizabeth II in the early decades of her reign, and coins from these years are highly recognizable across Canadian numismatics. The reverse side of the coin displays the famous beaver on a rock design created by British artist G.E. Kruger Gray in 1937. The beaver has been an enduring emblem of Canadian resilience and industriousness, chosen for its historical importance to the nation. During the 17th and 18th centuries, the beaver pelt trade was central to Canada's economy, fueling exploration, settlement, and international commerce. In Kruger Gray's design, the beaver is depicted in profile, crouched on a rock in the middle of water, appearing alert and engaged in its natural habitat. Above the beaver are the inscriptions 5 cents and Canada, with the year 1978 placed just below. Two maple leaves flank the denomination at the top, further reinforcing Canada's national identity. This design, unchanged since 1937, has become a beloved classic, making the nickel one of the most instantly recognizable Canadian coins in circulation. In terms of mintage and circulation, the 1978 Canadian nickel was produced in large quantities for everyday use. As such, it is commonly found in circulated condition today, usually bearing scratches, dulling, or wear from decades of handling. In circulated form, it retains only its face value of 5 cents. However, coins preserved in uncirculated or mint state condition, especially those with sharp details, full mint luster, and no signs of wear, can be worth more to collectors. Proof-like strikes and those included in Royal Canadian Mint collector sets from 1978 also carry higher value, as they were produced with greater care and superior finish. High-grade certified examples in grades like MS 65 or higher are much scarcer, and these are the pieces that tend to attract collector premiums. From a historical and cultural perspective, the 1978 Canadian 5-cent coin represents continuity in Canada's coinage system. It combines two powerful symbols: the reigning monarch, linking Canada to its constitutional monarchy and Commonwealth ties, and the beaver, symbolizing the nation's natural resources, labor, and early economic foundations. Its nickel composition reflects a period in Canadian minting when durability and quality were emphasized, and when the rising cost of pure nickel had not yet led to widespread alloy substitutions that would come later in the 1980s and 2000s. In conclusion, the 5 cents Canada 1978 coin is more than just pocket change. It is a blend of national identity, tradition, and everyday functionality. With Queen Elizabeth II's youthful tiara portrait on the obverse and the timeless beaver design on the reverse, it reflects both Canada's monarchy and its natural heritage. Its pure nickel composition, plain edge, and sturdy design make it an enduring part of Canadian coinage history. Though common in circulated form, well-preserved examples and proof-like strikes are valued by numismatists, especially as part of a complete set of Canadian nickels from the McKim portrait era. This small coin, minted nearly half a century ago, continues to carry with it the story of Canada's monarchy, resources, and cultural symbols, making it an enduring treasure in the world of coin collecting. Top 3, the 5 cents Canada 1956 coin, featuring Queen Elizabeth II, is an important piece in Canadian numismatic history, not only because of its age but also because it belongs to the very first portrait series of Queen Elizabeth II that began in 1953, shortly after her accession to the throne. The 1956 nickel was struck at the Royal Canadian Mint in Ottawa and was produced in a composition of 100% nickel, which was standard for Canadian 5-cent coins of this era. It weighs 4.54 grams, has a diameter of 21.21 millimeters, and a thickness of 1.76 millimeters, with a smooth, plain edge. Because it is composed entirely of nickel, the coin is magnetic and highly durable, which allowed many examples to survive decades of circulation. These physical specifications are consistent with Canadian 5-cent coins issued from 1955 through the late 1970s, when Canada maintained an emphasis on solid nickel before eventually switching to other alloys due to rising metal costs. On the obverse side, the 1956 coin carries the first official effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by British sculptor Mary Gillick. This youthful portrait was introduced in 1953 and used until 1964. It shows the Queen facing right, wearing a laurel wreath in her hair, a classical design that emphasizes youth, grace, and renewal. Around the portrait is the Latin legend Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina, which translates to Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen. This inscription, combined with the delicate and unadorned portrait, gives the coin a traditional yet elegant appearance. The Gillick portrait is highly regarded by collectors because it represents the very first image of Elizabeth II to appear on Canadian coinage, making it historically significant and nostalgic for many numismatists. On the reverse side, the coin features the famous beaver on a rock design, created by British artist G.E. Kruger Gray in 1937. The beaver, one of Canada's most enduring national symbols, was chosen for its historical importance to the early Canadian economy, especially during the fur trade era, when beaver pelts were central to commerce and European settlement. In the design, the beaver is depicted sitting on a rock in water, busy in its natural environment. Above the beaver is the denomination inscription 5 cents, while the word Canada is placed prominently above, along with the date 1956 below the design. Two small maple leaves frame the top inscription, symbolizing Canada's heritage and identity. This reverse design has remained largely unchanged since 1937, becoming one of the most recognizable and beloved motifs in Canadian coinage. In terms of mintage, the Royal Canadian Mint produced a substantial number of these coins in 1956, meaning that circulated examples are common and generally hold only their face value of 5 cents. However, condition plays a crucial role in determining collector interest and value. Circulated coins often show considerable wear, with flattening of the Queen's portrait and smoothing of the beaver's details. In contrast, uncirculated or mint-state examples, especially those with full mint luster, sharp details, and no blemishes, are far scarcer and can command significant premiums. Collectors also seek out proof-like coins struck for collector sets in 1956, which were produced with a shinier, more reflective finish. High-grade certified coins in MS 65 or higher are particularly desirable among serious numismatists. The 1956 nickel is also historically important because it falls within the early Elizabeth II period, a time when Canada was still adjusting to the transition from coins featuring King George VI, who reigned until 1952. For many Canadians, these early Elizabeth II nickels represented the beginning of a new era, both politically and culturally. The choice of the beaver design further reinforced national pride, linking the young Queen's reign with Canada's deep-rooted traditions and natural symbols. In summary, the 5 cents Canada 1956 coin is a small but meaningful artifact of Canadian heritage. It combines the youthful first portrait of Queen Elizabeth II by Mary Gillick with the timeless beaver design by Kruger Gray, symbolizing both monarchy and national identity. Struck entirely in nickel, it reflects the strength and durability of Canadian coinage in the mid-20th century. While common in circulated condition, uncirculated and proof-like examples hold collector value, especially given the coin's place within the first portrait series of Elizabeth II. For numismatists, the 1956 nickel is more than just pocket change. It is a snapshot of Canadian history, marking the early years of Elizabeth II's reign and the continuation of iconic national symbolism in everyday currency. Top 4, the 5 cents Canada 2004 coin, featuring Queen Elizabeth II, is a modern issue of Canada's long-running 5-cent denomination, commonly known as the nickel. By 2004, the coin had already seen more than 145 years of history since its first release in 1858, and it continued to carry the beloved beaver reverse design that has been in use since 1937. The 2004 nickel was struck by the Royal Canadian Mint in Ottawa, but unlike earlier all-nickel compositions, this coin reflects the cost-saving technological changes of the early 2000s. The coin is made from multi-ply plated steel. Its core is steel, coated with layers of nickel and copper, giving it a silver-like brilliance while reducing production costs. The coin weighs 3.95 grams, has a diameter of 21.2 millimeters, and a thickness of 1.76 millimeters, with a smooth plain edge. This new composition made the coin slightly lighter than older pure nickel issues, though it remains magnetic because of its steel core. On the obverse side, the coin features the mature effigy of Queen Elizabeth II designed by Canadian artist Dora de Pèteri-Hunt. This portrait, introduced in 1990, shows the Queen facing right, wearing the royal diadem, crown, rather than the youthful tiara of earlier designs. The portrait conveys dignity and maturity, reflecting the Queen's long service and steady presence. Surrounding the portrait is the inscription Elizabeth II D.G. Regina, which translates to Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen. The Dora de Pèteri-Hunt effigy was the first Canadian portrait of the Queen created by a Canadian artist, and it was used on circulation coinage from 1990 until 2003. By 2004, however, the new portrait by Susanna Blunt had been introduced on some Canadian coins, showing the Queen without a crown, in a more modern and approachable style. Because of this, the 2004 nickel exists in two varieties. Some carry the Dora de Pèteri-Hunt crowned effigy, struck in early 2004, while others feature the new Susanna Blunt uncrowned effigy, issued later in the year. This makes the 2004 Canadian nickel historically significant, as it marks the transition year between two obverse designs. Collectors often seek both versions to complete a set. On a reverse side, the coin features the enduring beaver on a rock design, created by British artist G.E. Kruger Gray and first issued in 1937 under King George VI. The beaver, Canada's national animal, is shown in a naturalistic pose, crouched on a rock surrounded by rippling water. The beaver is an important national symbol, representing Canada's industrious character and its early economic foundation during the fur trade era, when beaver pelts were one of the most valuable exports. Above the beaver are the inscriptions 5 cents and Canada, while the date 2004 is positioned just below the rock. Two maple leaves, another strong national emblem, flank the top of the design. This combination of the beaver and maple leaves has made the nickel one of Canada's most iconic coins, virtually unchanged for over 80 years. The 2004 Canadian nickel was struck in very large numbers for general circulation, making circulated examples common and worth only face value. However, for collectors, uncirculated examples, proof-like strikes from collector sets, and especially the two different obverse portrait varieties add interest and modest value. Proof and specimen sets issued by the Royal Canadian Mint in 2004 contain nickels of superior quality with mirror-like fields and sharp detail, which are highly desirable to numismatists. High-grade certified coins in MS 65 or higher also hold collector premiums, particularly for those building complete Canadian nickel collections by year and variety. From a historical and cultural perspective, the 2004 Canadian 5-cent coin reflects both continuity and change. The reverse connects Canadians to their heritage and natural symbols through the beaver and maple leaves, while the obverse demonstrates the evolution of Queen Elizabeth II's representation on coinage. The fact that 2004 saw the transition from the Dora de Pèteri-Hunt crowned effigy to the Susanna Blunt uncrowned portrait makes this year especially notable in Canadian numismatics. The change in effigy also mirrored Canada's evolving relationship with the monarchy, moving from a formal, traditional image toward a more contemporary and relatable one. In conclusion, the 5 cents Canada 2004 coin is a small but significant piece of modern Canadian currency. Struck in plated steel, it reflects the Mint's adaptation to modern production methods, while still honoring the timeless beaver design that has graced the denomination for decades. Its dual obverse portraits make it particularly important for collectors, symbolizing a transition in both artistry and national expression. While common in circulation, pristine mint state or proof-like examples are valued in numismatic circles, ensuring that the 2004 nickel remains an intriguing blend of tradition, innovation, and national identity. Top 5, the 5 cents Canada 2008 coin, featuring Queen Elizabeth II, is part of Canada's modern nickel series and continues the long tradition of the beaver reverse design that has been a hallmark of Canadian 5-cent pieces since 1937. Struck by the Royal Canadian Mint, the 2008 nickel is made using multiply plated steel technology, introduced in 2000 as a cost-saving and security-enhancing measure. Its core is composed of steel, plated with layers of nickel and copper, giving it a brilliant silvery appearance while being lighter and more economical to produce than the older solid nickel issues. The 2008 nickel weighs 3.95 grams, measures 21.2 millimeters in diameter, has a thickness of 1.76 millimeters, and has a smooth plain edge. Like all multiply-plated steel coins, it is magnetic due to its steel core, making it distinct from older pure nickel pieces that are also magnetic but heavier in weight. On the obverse side, the coin features the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II designed by Canadian artist Susanna Blunt, which was first introduced in 2003 and remains in use today. This effigy shows the Queen facing right, but notably without a crown, an intentional choice to depict her in a more modern and approachable way. The portrait emphasizes dignity, maturity, and humanity, representing Elizabeth II not just as a monarch but also as a figure of connection with ordinary people. This design is significant as it was only the second time in Canadian history that a Canadian artist created the Queen's portrait for coinage. Surrounding the effigy is the inscription Elizabeth II D.G. Regina, meaning Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen. By 2008, this portrait had already become familiar to Canadians, marking a visual shift from the more formal, crowned effigies used from 1953 to 2003. The reverse side of the 2008 nickel carries the classic beaver on a rock design by artist G.E. Kruger Gray, a design first used in 1937 during the reign of King George VI and continued through Elizabeth II's reign. The beaver is depicted in profile, industriously perched on a rock surrounded by rippling water, symbolizing hard work, resourcefulness, and the central role of the beaver in Canada's history, particularly during the fur trade, when beaver pelts were one of the most valuable exports. Above the beaver is the denomination 5 cents, while the word Canada appears prominently across the top, flanked by 2 maple leaves, Canada's enduring national emblem. The date 2008 appears below the design, and at the bottom is the small P mint mark for the Royal Canadian Mint's plating technology, a feature often seen on coins of this period. The beaver design is one of the most iconic and longest-running motifs in Canadian coinage, and its continuity through decades reflects a strong sense of national identity. In terms of mintage and circulation, the 2008 Canadian 5-cent coin was struck in large numbers for everyday transactions, making it very common in circulated grades where it typically holds only its face value. However, coins preserved in uncirculated or mint-state condition are of greater interest to collectors. Proof-like examples were included in the 2008 uncirculated coin sets, and proof-quality strikes with mirror-like fields and frosted reliefs were produced for the 2008 silver proof sets. These collector issues are significantly scarcer than circulation strikes and are valued higher in the numismatic market. High-grade examples certified in MS-65 or above also attract collector premiums, especially for those completing year-by-year collections of modern Canadian nickels. The 2008 Canadian nickel represents both continuity and modernization in Canadian coinage. On one hand, its reverse design links directly back to the 1930s, connecting Canadians to a shared national past, while on the other, its obverse reflects the contemporary image of Queen Elizabeth II in a more relatable form. Its multiply-plated steel composition highlights the Royal Canadian Mint's embrace of advanced technology and cost-effective production, which was increasingly important in the 21st century. For collectors, the 2008 issue is also part of the Susanna Blunt effigy era, which many consider one of the most important changes in Canadian coin design, as it marked a break from the centuries-old tradition of depicting monarchs in regal attire. In summary, the 5 cents Canada 2008 coin is both a practical piece of currency and a symbolic link between Canada's past and present. Its plated steel construction, Susanna Blunt effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, and Kruger Gray's timeless beaver reverse make it a blend of modern minting and traditional imagery. While common in circulation, high-quality uncirculated or proof-like examples remain collectible, and its position within the Blunt Portrait series ensures that it will always hold historical and cultural importance in Canadian numismatics. Thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe my channel for more videos.